Good morning, everybody. How you doing there?
Good morning.
Good morning. So today is going to be an audience-induced peer-to-peer with everybody making a contribution. The premise for today is, I think the life cycle of real estate is kind of broken, or some of the chains are weak, and it's stalling a lot of our opportunity, a lot of our business. And while we're waiting for more people to come on, I just want to start with this here. So the traditional life cycle of real estate, where somebody buys a starter home, or they buy a multifamily, then they buy a single family, or they buy a condo, then they buy their single family. I think that cycle is broken, and I think with the cycle being broken, it has spider effects into other markets. And the purpose of this session here is to try to figure out collectively, what can we do to unfreeze the cycle of homeownership? Would you all agree like that traditional cycle is abnormal, or it's challenged right now? Anybody? Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
Rob, I can hear you. And yes, I agree with you.
Okay. And, I think if you have your first-time buyers that aren't moving up, then there's limited space for first-time buyers to come in, and that whole process is broken. And where does that process get saved this time? My opinion is it gets saved when the empty nesters or the downsizers are comfortable in making that transaction, that everything filters up to it, right? So how many of us have spoken to people, or have maybe people in our sphere of influence or our client base that probably would be making a move, but they say, but Denise, but Adona, but Maurice, but Eric, where would I go if I sold? Do you think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing?
Absolutely. I've said it myself.
Right. And how do we break the cycle? I mean, traditionally, we used to try to do it by stimulating the first-time buyer. And if we stimulate the first-time buyer, we just have more buyers to sell fewer homes to. I think that this is a unique scenario where, when the market has reduced units, the solution is not to get the first-time home buyers out, because I think despite higher interest rates and firm underwriting standards, there's really no shortage of qualified, motivated first-time buyers. There's just a limitation as to the amount of homes that are available for them. And this is evidenced by some of our prior conversations about how to get people to make offers that can get accepted by waiving, majority of the home inspection, waiving parts of the appraised value, putting more money down. So I don't think the traditional solution of stoking the first-time buyer to get them to buy up, and then when they buy up, somebody else buys up, forcing somebody or motivating somebody to sell and move to their next chapter.
Rob, can you hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things that I've been experiencing is with the townhouses, that they're more or less investors now that are purchasing them. In my development, we have 484 units, and of those 484 units, 25% of them are investors. So you take into consideration, instead of you got your first-time home buyers trying to buy a townhouse, you're competing against investors who are 100% cash, and then they're not willing to sell. They're holding it on for 20 years. So that's one of the factors that I'm dealing with, that, instead of them investors buying multifamily units, you got regular people buying, investors buying townhouses. And the ones that are buying multifamily units are the ones that are, staying there to live. So they're doing owner occupant. That's one of the things that I'm experiencing.
So maybe one of the solutions based upon that conversation, Maurice, is to get some of the investors to move properties to primary residence, right?
So how would you do that if they already have a primary resident who is, you know, most investors are living large at a 5-bedroom, $1 million property. They're not going to downsize. They're trying to increase their portfolio. So I have an investor right now that actually lives in a $3 million house in Freehold, and he owns 26 units. All I do is send him units between my development and Rain Tree, and if he likes it, he just pays cash for it. He doesn't care if he makes $100 a month profit. He's only keeping them there for portfolio.
Okay. And what type, now does he leverage the property that he buys 70%, 80%, or not at all?
He basically pays cash. He owns a nightclub, so it's an all cash business. So you're dealing with cash versus, you know, taking that cash, instead of putting it in the bank, he's putting it in homes. That's pretty much it. He doesn't take out mortgages. He doesn't plan on selling them. He can care less if he makes a profit. He just has to store his mortgage, his cash somewhere. In the banks, you're getting a 0.25% interest versus a home that you're getting, you know, equity on. So that right there takes away from the college student that wants to move into the townhouse, then eventually moves into the single family home, gets married, and then wants to, from the 2-bedroom single family home or 3-bedroom single family home, goes to the 4-bedroom, and then eventually moves from the 4-bedroom down to the 55 and up community. We're missing a whole sector there. So would have to go.
So I think you know, the bigger picture, Maurice, is that maybe a disproportionate amount of homes that would have been to owner occupants have been gobbled up by investors, contributing to the shortages that we have.
100%.
So
and especially we've had, sorry to cut you off, Rob, but my development has so much investors that we actually had to have a HOA meeting 2 months ago to change it so that if you do purchase a property, you have to stay there within 2 years before you can rent it out. That's how many investors we have in our unit, in our development. And then the investors don't vote. So because of that, we don't have enough votes to pass things. You see, you know, so that's where people get frustrated who live in developed HOAs. And now they're saying, we don't want any investors for the first 2 years, you know, you have to stay there. So that's 100% of my investors are gone. And right now, the best market is rentals. So if you purchase an investment property, you can jack the rent up right now to whatever, and they'll pay for it.
So here's what's coming to my mind, and I don't want to inflict damage to my own marketplace, but here's a thought that I have. You know, if I was a generic investor looking to buy real estate, I don't think I would be, if I was in Minneapolis, or if I was in, you know, Des Moines, and I was saying, hey, I could buy anywhere in the entire country, right? I'm an investor needing to buy someplace that's, you know, 30 minutes from my house. I think probably New Jersey and possibly Florida might not be on the top of the list for different reasons. Number one, you know, New Jersey is a very difficult state to do business in. Okay, there's a lot of regulation. And number two, the property taxes make it more challenging to have, you know, an advantageous cash flow. You know, so if you were looking to buy anywhere in the country, you know, New Jersey, for those reasons, would probably not be on the top of the list. And, you know, in Florida right now, we have issues with insurance that, you know, might make Florida a little bit less speculative if you're not in the state. Anybody from Florida on the call working with investors? Anybody?
Hello?
We do have agents. Oh, I'm okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm working with investors. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm driving.
I can.
Yes, I'm working with some investors. They're from New Jersey and they're buying rental properties here in Florida. And yes, I'm helping them, and then I help them rent them as well after they purchase them.
And are they buying like on the income, or are they buying in anticipation of moving from New Jersey there, or a combination thereof?
At the moment for income, and then possibly in the future moving down here.
Gotcha. And how big of a challenge is that? This is Lisa, right?
Yes, Lisa.
Lisa, how big of a challenge is insurance on the making properties work investment wise? And I wouldn't imagine that, you know, the issues that we're having have any impact on it being an investment property, right?
No, they managed to get insurance, and it's not too bad. It's still profitable to purchase the investment properties.
So my understanding is, if you're buying, and are they buying primarily like condos or primarily single multifamilies?
Condos.
Okay. So what we might be seeing in condo world is we might be seeing some pressure on the assessments, and I've seen some reports that, you know, HOA assessments, you know, might be doubling and tripling, especially in some of the condos that are having those inspection period issues coming up. And that might deter, or that might motivate some investors to want to sell and make some more inventory available. And if you have investors, Lisa, that are buying single and multifamily homes, you know, I've heard from many sources that the insurance companies are flying drones over properties and then requesting that repairs be made, primarily looking at roofs, and that can be an expensive proposition. So, you know, that might be a way to take some people who are invested in the market, have seen some profits, give them the ability to cash out before, you know, some of these likely outcomes hit them. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
Luis, I have a question. Like right here up in New Jersey, most investors are happy if they make a couple $100 a month. Is it the same thing in Florida? Do you know?
What was the question?
Most
Yes, I didn't hear
investors I'm sorry. Most investors here in New Jersey are happy if they make a couple $100 a month, $200 or $300 a month. Is it the same down there in Florida?
Yeah, I know that in the Orlando area, our rents have increased dramatically. So, I mean, any investors that have bought within the last, you know, before the last year, I mean, they're definitely making money. I sell a lot of short-term rentals here in the Orlando area, and that market is great. You know, it hasn't, you know, it's starting to slow down a little bit because of inflation. But, you know, to answer your question, you know, I always sell the equity on that, right? I mean, you know, if you buy something today, break even, then, you know, what do you in 3 years when, you know, rent rates increase by 3% per year, and you're getting, you know, normal depreciation of 3%, you know, in 5 years on a $300,000 property, I mean, you have $50,000 in equity. That's what I always, you know, try to play out on that, if that makes sense.
100%. It makes sense.
So, and Jared, what percentage of your buyers that you're seeing there, and this would be Lisa as well, how are they making the acquisitions? Are they putting substantial down payments, total down payments, or are they paying cash? Like, what does that look like? And how do the interest rates influence the returns?
I mean, I see a lot of people putting down cash. There's a lot of cash coming still in Florida. especially in this market here, you know, we have more, I think Miami and the areas down there, and Fort Lauderdale too, there are a lot of international buyers. And, you know, people bringing equity from other places, right?
I had
And,
a buyer, sorry to cut you off. I had a buyer that was looking in Miami. Is it true that there's a lot of buildings, you know, condo buildings being, there's like odd, you know, basically more than usual? Is that true?
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Maurice.
Is that, okay, hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a client that was looking in Miami to purchase a property, and I'm asking, is it true that there's a substantial amount of buildings, apartment buildings being put up more than usual?
The entire buildings?
Yeah, like you know, new construction. Is there more new construction being put up than usual?
For rentals.
I'm in Orlando, so
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you that in Orlando, there's a lot of building. There's a lot of new construction going on. I mean, we have the land out west of Orlando that's being developed, and then to the north. I mean, they've created a beltway called the 429 on the west side of Orlando. You know, it's growing like crazy. Of course, we've had, you know, this affordability crunch here, just like everywhere else. So they're building quite a few multifamily all over the place.
Now, I'll direct this to, you know, our Florida team, maybe Lisa, John, I see Garrett, you're on. Are we seeing more of the traditional inventory that would have been built as condos being built as purely rental properties, in your opinion, or it's hard to tell?
I think, yes, more rental properties.
We have a couple of the developments going up here in Orlando that are strictly rentals. I mean, they're building homes, single families out of the ground, strictly for rentals.
Right.
I think we're seeing both, but the condominiums that are being built are on the higher end, more towards, I'm noticing more towards the beach, and they're like $1 million and up. Whereas there's apartment building going on all over. I mean, it's still a boom. So I don't know. There's such a demand here for housing.
So I wonder how we play that,
in
John.
New Jersey, we have the same thing, Rob. I mean, Hackensack, for instance, there's new structures everywhere you look, left and right, and most of them are rentals. So it's just a big curve with rentals being developed versus condos.
So the the inventory shortage is, I don't think that there's one single solution to resolving it. And I think part of it is, you know, down in Florida, and I would agree with John, and I don't know if in the other parts of the state, that the developers, you know, with their limited employees, are probably biased towards building, you know, the higher end, you know, build one higher end unit, then build 2 or 3 more affordable entry level units to sell because they can. And that also puts pressure on the, you know, the inventory of homes that are affordable, which are limited. And in recent years, probably more of those condos are probably bought by investors on a speculative or an income basis. Are you seeing, John, would you say that more units in a particular condo community, or even you know, townhouse community, are rentals than they were before, or are the associations doing a good job at prioritizing them for owner occupants?
I still think there's a lot of people that want to be investors. That the problem is that prices are higher. Like I had a lady the other day, she wants to buy something for 200,000. There's nothing, I can't even find. I told our starter homes started about 400 for a 2-1 900 and something square feet. They're just, being priced out of the market. But there's a big demand also for investors are like, when something comes on the market, they're jumping on because there's a lack of inventory. So the investors are paying good prices now. My last 3 sales that I've had in the last like 10 days have all been, I just put a listing on the market Friday, and I listed it. It's a 2-2 for 510, which I thought was a pretty good price. Then we had a 520 offer they were going to sign. Before I could get it signed, I had a one come in at 540, and then now that I had it signed, I just had another one come in cash for 510. There's just every listing is on the market 48 hours, and it's selling still over the asking price.
Where are you? Where are you, John?
I'm in the Pembroke Pines area, Southwest Broward, just southwest.
No, that is. I mean, last week the FHFA, price index was the highest ever for single family home. It hit an all-time high last week. Just prices across the country.
Yeah, they're still climbing. I really thought they were going to level off, especially and those are all starter properties. All 3 of my listings are and it's amazing. The starter properties here were 460, 540, and another at 450. That's the lowest end of what you can buy.
So John, how do you see, normalizing the market? Because I think the market is, we all have abundant buyers, right? Which years ago would have been a great thing, right? We just travel around and find something for them. But right now, there's probably 7 buyers that want every single property that comes on the market or more, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think the only thing, rates have gone up. So that definitely has, it's put some people on the market, but we have, I think down here, there's listings come on the market one at a time. So even if there's fewer buyers, there's fewer listings. So it's still proportionate. The only thing that can happen is that prices will get to a certain point. Who knows how long it'll take before, people will step back, but even that'll normalize. But I always try to reflect on what's happened out in California over the years. How many times I looked at what prices were at, and I said, how can they be paying that? And then I look a couple years later and they're still higher. And then I look again and they're still higher again. So it's that, as an example, my son lives in San Francisco. So we're talking about him getting a condo. And so we started looking on realtor.com, and a 2-1 condo, about 800 square feet, they start at 800. And what he really is looking for is maybe a smaller 2-2, which would be around mid 850 or so. Now, that would, in our area now, is selling for, I don't know, 250 to 3, so we have a long way to go. If we'll ever catch up to California, we still got 500,000 to climb,
Right, but John, my brother lives in San Diego, and his house is probably down about 20% from a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah, depends on what areas too, I think. And on the other hand, we weren't really looking back. I just opened the computer or on my phone and started looking. I don't know what that was selling for. It could very well have been worth, 50,000 more a year ago too. I don't know. We're just looking at it. Right? But I know California's got, they've had an exodus now. I don't know. That obviously has had some sort of effect. Whereas we've got this influx, we're in the total opposite here. I know California doesn't have any more room to grow unless you commute 100 miles away. But we're in a unique situation here in South. I'm 46 years I'm doing this, never seen a situation like this. This is an interesting market because you have, normally when you have high rates and high prices, the market flattens, but it's just not, it hasn't found its point yet.
So,
Hey, Rob.
Yeah,
I
I
think
have a
we're gonna
question.
focus today's meeting more on how to get listings, because that really is ultimately, that's the problem. We just don't have enough inventory.
Right. So
And-
I think Mickey, that literally you're reading my mind. My next question was, maybe when we're looking to get listings, part of the ability to get a listing is to give somebody an option of where to go, right?
Absolutely.
And people who are in, you know, you're in primarily one of the most affluent areas in the country. And the target listing that you want is probably what, 700 to 1.5 million? Is that the sweet spot for you, Mickey?
Yes, absolutely.
So, you know, and I'm thinking out loud here, and I'll be the first one to say, I don't have all the solutions. But what if we did like a case study instead of you know, hey, you want to sell your house, right? Instead of doing that, saying, hey, you know, here's you know, somebody that, you know, moved from New Jersey, or here's an opportunity. If you move from New Jersey to Florida, you know, you could, you know, get your retirement income tax-free, saves the, you know, the average person's retirement income in that area has to be 6 figures, right, Mickey?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I'm not an accountant, but I mean, I imagine if you put your money, you know, into your 401k tax-free, when you take it out, you're paying taxes on it. And if you happen to take it out in New Jersey, you're paying an extra tax on it. So if you're making $100,000 between Social Security and your retirement income, you're paying tax on it in New Jersey. If you're in Florida, it would be tax-free. That gives you the ability to recognize some additional income. If Florida is a lifestyle, or South Carolina is a lifestyle that you want to be in, let's highlight the reasons why you might want to be there. Property taxes are going to be lower. You know, and maybe it's just a case study that gets some people, you know, and it's not going to be a solution that, it's not the silver bullet that solves all the problems, but maybe that's something that, you know, hey, you know, maybe I want to do this, you know. I remember one time I was out door knocking with Susanna Costa, and, you know, we're talking to this probably mid-60s gentleman would be my guess. And he's like, oh, I got the best, I got the best lot in Cranford, and the back is a preserve, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I don't think I'd ever sell this, right? And then, you know, a couple minutes later, you know, Susanna, Rob, what's your name? Joe. Hey, Joe, you know, I know you said you'd never sell, but, you know, when you do eventually move, where would you go? And he said, I'd be moving to Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I'm like, interesting, why? And he was like, I've been looking online, a brand new house in Spartanburg has taxes that are for the year 30% less than I just paid last quarter. And I can buy a brand new house for 40% less than what this house would sell for. And I'm like thinking to myself, that's pretty interesting. And if we can educate people on, you know, maybe the benefits of different areas, it would free up some inventory over here. Just a thought. And I don't think anybody, I've never seen anybody send me a piece of mail saying that if you move to this area or that area, maybe even inviting them to a forum to talk about, you know, what it's like to move to the 5 or 6 most, the 5 or 6 favorite areas that people move to when they leave Central or Northern Jersey.
You know, you got a good point there. Matter of fact, as you were talking, I was thinking about, I do, you know, regular postcards into my farm areas, and 75% of my sellers, now the majority that I've come across that have been selling have been 55 and older and moving north. And then the other part has been divorce is still part, also family illness or estate. But the big part are people moving north. So a lot of these people have equity. And so I have, over the years, they've shown me all these little towns that they've been moving to, whether it's North Florida or it's the Carolinas. And so I could promote myself as the bridge, you know, and even just a card stating something that, hey, you know, 75% of the people I come in contact are moving north, and they're, you know, the saying, you know, sell high, buy low. And that's exactly what they're doing. And now's the time to take advantage of that. And I can be your bridge to these other towns. I have a lot of experience, something along that line, but it may motivate people that are kind of sitting on the fence, thinking about moving north, that now's the time to cash in, get that good price, and go ahead and buy that home somewhere at one of these little towns, like it seems that a lot are doing. Good
Yep,
idea.
John, for some of your market, right? If it's older condos, how about, the message that there's some uncertainty into what's going to happen to HOA fees, right?
That's true too. Yeah, or condo fees. Exactly. Yep.
So I mean, if it's approaching 40 years, right, there could be a significant amount of special assessment, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're going to see some changes here. There's, I think, one more year left before they actually enforce the full reserves, and that's going to have, not only is it going to be these assessments because of the age of the buildings, but the state regulated that all condo associations have to have full reserves. And part of the problems here is a lot of the associations were only doing minimal. And so now all the fees are going to go up. There's no doubt, because now they can get things, but it's going to affect every condo.
And John, even the ones that aren't, 30 plus?
Yes, every building in 2024 will have to have full reserves held out to cover future costs. That was the problem down here, is that a lot of people were, they were on the board. They said, well, let's only, take out what's necessary. Let's not plan ahead for roof and these assessments. So then what was happening is the people getting assessed. And that's part of the problem with the building down in Sunny Isles, was it didn't have, there was not enough money to keep maintaining the building. So now the state's saying you have to have the money for specific things, the roof and structural, and that has to be collected and paid on a monthly basis. They can't be assessed. That's going to affect people. It's also going to affect investors too, because you're going to see, I think you're going to see a big increase in maintenance fees here.
And John, I think one of the things that would probably be liberating for people to make decisions is having a forum, and my vision would be if we can get, home sellers onto a call to talk about what are the pluses and the minuses. And if we had the, full transparency and integrity, like we're not manipulating facts for our own self-interest, it would free up some people to make decisions on where they want to go, and others that aren't doing anything will continue not to do anything if it's not in their interest. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. There's definitely some potential out there, and there's people that are sitting on the fence.
Right, and maybe we could have somebody from Texas, from North Carolina, South Carolina, like the places where we have where you're at like a crossroads between a lot of South Americans coming in and a lot of Northeast transplants, correct?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
If we were to make a forum where people could get on, and maybe it's a virtual education for people to get on and ask people with tremendous experience, knowledge, and integrity, hey, here's where I'm at, what solutions do I have? And to your point, Mickey, if they wanted to move to North Carolina, here's all the benefits and drawbacks. You want to move to South Carolina, benefits and drawbacks. If you want to move to the Jacksonville metro all the way down to Miami metro, right? There's different pluses and minuses, right? And if we gave people that certainty of knowing some more information, it might give them the ability to make their own mind up. And I don't know, is anybody from the Rockaway office on the call?
Rob, I have a question though. How do you even get someone interested? Because my biggest dilemma is they cut me off at the door. No, I'm not going anywhere. There's no place to go. Prices are high everywhere. And I have to go through multiple offers or bidding wars to get a place. So why do I want to go into that scenario and have all that trouble? So they don't even want to talk to me further than that. So that's my experience.
Right. And so Mickey, the way I would address that, and I know you have a little bit of that New York fight in you, right? And that's what helps you, that tenacity helps you. But I think over in this conversation, that has the potential to hurt us. Because my reaction when somebody would say that would be, so Mickey, let's say that those issues were no longer present right now. And I'm not saying that they're not, but if they weren't, you know, where would you go, right? What would be the motivation for doing it? And then you find a different way to approach it. And you say, hey, you know, if you don't mind, I did this analysis, you know, in Eastern Bergen County, you know, your home has gone up about 400,000 in the past 3 years. And in South Carolina, the price has only gone up about 90,000. So you'd have a $310,000 advantage if you wanted to do that. And it's not going to work for all, Mickey, but I think that this is the way that the conversation has to start, is by having a pathway and a conversation to get people to think outside that negative knee-jerk reaction of, oh my God, I don't want to have to worry about buying with, you know, competing offers, 30 offers. Well, you're going to get 30 offers on your house here. You're going to get top dollar. You know, where can we move you to?
So is there somehow a way that we can get, I'm not familiar with the market in Carolinas. I know I've looked a little bit in Florida because I'm also interested in buying something for myself. And the prices are very different from what they were a couple of years ago. And from what I understand, well, even from the meetings, obviously they have many offers on every single sale. So maybe if we can just get a little bit of information on what is an average 3-bedroom home, what is an average 3-bedroom condo or 2-bedroom condo, you know, like maybe each area have some kind of a recap so that we have a tool that we can present, since we're not going to be familiar with the other markets.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we can source data. You know, I'm not sure how to. This is not my expertise. I'm not sure how to moderate an audience, but I think that emotion plays a bigger role than facts in whatever people do. Like the emotion of you know, buying and bidding against each other, bidding things up. That's emotion, right? The emotional mindset of if I sold, where would I go is a emotion that is disempowering for people in making the right decision, right? Everybody feels like if I sold, I get top dollar, but where could I go? Or if I sold and I got top dollar, I'm gonna have to pay a higher interest rate.
I think creating, like you said, Rob, creating desire, so that they have a picture in their mind of where they would like to go if all things fell into place. And then that allows them to move forward in that venue.
I mean, if everybody was able to have full transparency, okay, to what a move would look like, due to the facts that we all know that interest rates are higher, prices are up, there's going to be a lot of people that it's not going to make sense for. But there are a lot of people that it will make sense for. For example, if you're going to be buying cash, who gives a hoot about what the interest rate is, right? You're buying cash. You're going to, you know, hopefully you'll be trading down. You'll take some cash. You'll hold that back on the side. You'll move to another area. You won't have a mortgage there either. If you have a better lifestyle and lower property taxes, lower cost of living, that might make a whole hell of a lot of sense, right? And how about like the people who work virtually, who have homes here in the, you know, New York, New Jersey area, or even in Florida, and they want to move to different parts of Florida, and maybe they can cash out on their high price in Broward, and they can move to a lower price county in Florida. Yeah,
Absolutely. You know,
Let me ask you a question, Rob. So I have a dilemma also. I have 2 cash buyers that were looking in the market, but they're on hold because they feel that the market is overpriced, and why should they pay a higher price? And even typically with cash, you get a better deal, but now even with cash, you still have to bid up over asking. So what do you say to those people?
So what is their current scenario? You said
they're cash buyers, but they're on hold. They're no longer looking because they feel that the market is overpriced and that it's gonna needs to correct, and it will be corrected shortly, you know, next year or the year after, I guess.
I'm experiencing
So
the same thing.
say
Right,
that again.
but I think, Mickey, I think that that's probably even a good thing. And I know it's not a good thing when it's your buyer, but you know, we need to, you know, kind of stay on point here, which is how do we manufacture listing inventory, right?
Correct. We got off
and
track, so we need more of the listing.
your cash buyer has nothing to sell, right?
No,
So I think we're kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. And, you know, if cash buyers are of the belief that prices might fall, that might, you know, make some more opportunities for our buyers because there's a segment that's leaving the market, but it's never good if it's your segment that's leaving the market, but that's a different conversation. You know,
okay, so let's go back to how do we get more listings?
so the reason I
What
asked
do we
about
say and what do we do?
the reason I asked about if anybody from Rockaway was on is that, you know, Rockaway is western, you know, northwest New Jersey-ish. Same answer that we have, where am I going to go? And they were doing a trip down to South Jersey. I believe it was within an hour and a half, 2-hour ride to look at some affordable active adult communities that they might be able to share with homeowners and say, look, you know, I know that, you know, you're seeing crazy demand here, but you could sell your house here and here's 7 opportunities that you can choose to move to, right? And that's a proactive step in towards, you know, creating new inventory when sellers are like, where would I go? And
And that's great for the people that are retiring, but what about for the people that, you know, still have kids in school and aren't looking to retire just yet?
So I'm sure we have a different solution for people. And there are some people who, you know, when they retire, Mickey, who don't want to leave the area because their kids are here, their grandkids, it's really not an option. And again, you know, that solution doesn't solve all the problems, but would it solve, you know, what percentage of normal sellers would be in that category of, you know, downsizing? 10, 15%, 20%. And that market is seized up because they look at us and they say, where would I go? Right. And now we're giving them an opportunity or a solution or an alternative for them. Right.
And Rob, doesn't that take it a step further? Because now if you get them to move and you list their house, maybe now there's a first-time home buyer that would be interested in the house that they're leaving. Or an investor that might be interested in that house that those seniors might be leaving. Taking that a step further, you know, maybe also going to senior citizen meetings and educating them, because the one thing that the seniors are always concerned about is how are they going to continue to meet their monthly bills. And it's fascinating to hear that other states have different options than we do in New Jersey, that with the same money would allow them to have an increase of income on a monthly basis. So I think part of it is educating people to what the options are that are available. And by moving people out of their homes and to some place that'll give them a better benefit would open up a possibility for others to move into those homes, creating a little more of a flow for a certain segment. Doesn't cover all the problems.
Rob, one of the ideas that I had was when you have somebody that has their child moving to college, you know, graduating, that instead of them keeping the home, that they buy like a multifamily unit. And that way that can help with the income can help with the child's graduation. I'm not graduation, college, you know, fees and things like that. What do you think about that idea?
So you're saying when somebody moves off, just give me a more concrete example.
Okay, so there's a lot of people graduating and they have the last child, right? So where I live at in Freehold, you have these big houses and they have the signs on the front of the lawn saying, congratulations, class of 2023, right? So the thought process that I was having was instead of me saying to them, your child, all your children are, empty nesters. What about downsizing? We go towards an investment idea. Like instead of you downsizing, buy a multifamily unit or a 4-family unit, and that way you can use that income to help pay for your child's college tuition. So you're not, losing money.
I mean, that would probably work for a certain segment. And are you suggesting that they would sell their, 900 million three home and freehold and buy a multifamily and rent out 3 of the units themselves?
Correct. And that way that would help with their child's tuition. A lot of people that I've talked to, when their kids go off to college, what they do is they refinance the home, but they still want to stay there because the idea is that after their child graduates college, they'll come back home, or they come back home for spring break or things like that. So they want to keep the house, but the truth of the matter is they can't afford it because they're still paying the same mortgage, and now they're paying college tuition. And a lot of people don't qualify for grants or subsidies and things like that. So one of the ideas that I've been creating was a flyer to them, because in Freehold you can't door knock. You can pass out flyers or door hangers. Is that they don't lose this opportunity to create an investment for your home rather than take out equity. Create an investment, sell it, take the money that you were going to use for equity, put it down for a multifamily unit, and now you have income that generates for your child's tuition.
Yes,
Hey,
but what
Rob.
percentage of the people will want to live in a multifamily if they've lived in a single family? I personally think that's a tougher sell, but that's just my opinion.
Hey,
Right.
Rob, Donna Sika here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, yeah, interesting point about the college thing. I've had a couple people purchase when the kids went off to college, rather than living on campus, purchase something where their child lives in, and then they rent out the other rooms to other students.
Yep.
So
Yeah, they purchase condos. I have that too.
they'll purchase a 4 bedrooms. So at least they have income generated there. And then the kid doesn't have to spend all that money on, living on campus, and it generates.
So I heard
income from that.
I heard somebody say that somebody from a single family unit would not move into a multifamily unit. Is it the square footage that you're thinking of? I'm just getting the opinion of why, you would think that.
You lived in a single family home. You're not sharing your home. Now you want to live with other people. Basically, it's like moving to an apartment, having other people on top of you, around you, sharing your home. I think that's the. I find most of the people that buy a 2-family are usually first-time home buyers. Because they want to, defer their mortgage payment and have somebody else help them pay. But I very rarely see people who have lived in a single family move to a multifamily. That's
Wouldn't
just
that
my
be
experience.
I think that you're correct in that way. But what about the idea that people who, now again, this is like senior citizen, living in a single family, then the same thing as they moving into an adult community. Now they're sharing the same type of situation. Do you think that matters? Versus the adult versus somebody who's younger?
Right, but I think Maurice, it goes towards like a lifestyle issue.
Yeah.
Some people move to a senior community for not just the smaller size, but it's all lifestyle based, where it's single floor, you have activities, things of that nature.
The ambiance and that, but in Florida, I think we find a lot of people moving from single family homes to condominiums, especially if they're moving from the west side of West Broward to East Broward. They're looking for that retirement once they're empty nesters.
Yes,
They don't
and
want the
condos is a
upkeep of
certain
the home.
lifestyle that some people prefer. But I think in a 2-family or a 3-family or 4 families is a little different.
So Mickey, how about this idea? I know a lot of homeowners that have said this house is not meeting my needs. A lot of them have put additions on their homes, but there's also a lot of people who've explored that opportunity and it's not financially feasible. If that makes any sense. And there was an instance with a client of one of our agents in Palm Beach County. He had a very successful doctor who wanted to sell his house and move somewhere else. The house required a lot of work. And he came back to the agent and said, maybe I'll just, instead of selling it, because I can't get my price, I'll put an addition onto it. Right. And, this agent went and did some homework and found out that if you put more than 45% of the home's value into improvements, you need to bring it up to current code in terms of the FEMA map, which would have meant that he would have had to raise the entire house, which made that completely not feasible, which got him back to selling. So there have to be a lot of people that are looking to put additions on that are sticker shock from the cost of putting an addition on, and maybe selling is a viable opportunity. And if we're transparent, and I spoke to a woman who runs a team up in Connecticut. She has an explicit program where it's buy or build, or add on to your house or buy a new one. Right? They do an analysis, they do an active marketing campaign. And I don't think it's called buy or build, but I think she has a catchier name. But I think that principle would be something that would be interesting, because sometimes, people who would normally be buying up and trading up on their house, I think are avoiding that because of the interest rate change. So if you're going to, go from a $700,000 house to $1 million house, that's $300,000. If you're financing 80% of that, generally speaking, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if the entirety of your financing is now at a double, the interest rate is double what you're paying now, that's a big deal, right? But you might not be happy with your house. So a percentage of those people that are looking to put additions on, that are saying that this doesn't make any sense, they might be candidates for buying. And if we can work with some of the builders, their unsuccessful construction bid might be our next listing, right? And some of our clients that are not happy where they are right now, if you refer them to a builder, they put an addition on it. When they eventually sell, that's a bigger commission check for us, right? And I don't think that we're going to change the destiny of what they're going to do. We just want to be a value added resource that helps them make the right decision. Does that make any sense, or am I, or is that too far fetched?
I think what I got out of that is that instead of somebody putting an addition on their home, that you talk to a builder if they find a lot that they're already building a complex or whatever, that if they can redo the original plans and put an addition onto that, then they would sell their home. Is that what I'm getting out of that?
Maurice, normally, like in freehold, there has to be like an entry level home cost, right? Like, what's the entry level first time buyer home price range in freehold?
Condos are going for 400.
Well, let's look at single families that you could put.
Single families are going for about, depending on the situation, you're looking at between 5 and 6.
Between 5 and 6, and then the higher end, the empty nesters are probably in the 1.3 million, 1.1 million homes, a million.
Correct.
Okay, so the people who bought 5 years ago for the 5 or 6 that have seen their incomes go up, and the economy for employment has been strong, people have been getting raised, their income has gone up. Normally, they would be trading into a newer house, correct?
Correct.
And I think those homeowners that are in that entry level home are probably having a conversation at their kitchen table saying, if we go and buy another house with interest rates at 7%, when we have a 2.5 or a 3.5, that's going to be a lot more expensive. Maybe we want to think about putting an addition on. Some of those people that explore the addition, maybe their lot's too small, maybe the cost of doing the addition, even the home prices are up, is astronomical. And has anybody, explored doing new construction or an addition to your home? I mean, costs are through the roof. So possibly there's an opportunity You know, if a builder makes a quote on homes, you know, what do they do? 3 quotes to every transaction, right? And maybe of the 2 that they lose, maybe one of them hires a competitor and one decides not to build, right? Well, that one person that decides not to build has already raised their hand, identified that my home is not adequate for me. Maybe that's a target audience for us, right? And if we refer builders to our, and you might say, Rob, you're crazy. Why do I want to refer a builder so they don't have to sell? Well, they're probably going to figure this out anyway. So if we're a resource and say, hey, you know, if you're not happy with your house, you know, here's a vetted builder, you can get a quote for putting an addition on or fixing your home up. You know, sometimes people just fix their home up because they're getting ready to sell. So these are different opportunities that, you know, maybe they're not sure things, but it certainly gives us a broader audience to get more listings. You know, NAR said that people who bought in the pandemic, you know, made more sacrifices on the home that they bought than they've ever done in the past. And I want to say, I think the number was 45% of the people, you know, are not satisfied with the home that they bought because the crazy amount of bidding, and, you know, they bought a bedroom smaller, they bought a smaller lot size, they bought without a garage or a 1-car garage instead of a 2. They wanted a pool, they don't have a pool, they can't put a pool in. So they made sacrifices where they're not satisfied. Their home value has gone up. If we can be a conduit to share with them, hey, you know what, you might have to pay a higher interest rate for a shorter period of time, or maybe we start the marketing, and by the time things are ready, if interest rates are, you know, 7.25% now, and they go down to, you know, 5.75%, people feel like they're getting a deal, and they're going to be getting off the fence because we've positioned ourselves to get those calls when that happens, right? I mean, if rates went from 3% to 5.75% and never went any higher, you know, people might feel like, wow, the rates are really high. But if they go all the way up to 7.5% and then they're back down to 5.75%, people might be like, well, I'm glad I waited because now the rates are, you know, 1.5% lower than they were at their peak. I can have a reason to feel good about that. Does that make any sense? Mickey, you still on?
Yes, I'm still on. I'm trying to get my dogs to stop barking.
Okay. So I think there's different, you know, there's no single answer, but, you know, working with the builder, putting together, you know, where are people, you know, where do people from, what's your target market, Mickey? What's the next town that you want to get your listing in?
Bergen County.
But give me, like, what town would you like to get your next listing in?
I have, for instance, Closter. I have so many clients looking in Closter, and we've door knocked. I'm actually door knocking again tonight.
Yeah, if you can, if you want to mute for a second, I'll just take it from here. So if you're in Closter and you want to get listing inventory there, maybe one of the things that you might want to say is, you know, hey, you know, where do people from Closter move when they sell their home? And you have a list of the, you know, 5 areas. Okay. And
how would I get that information?
That's a really good question. Maybe one of the things that you can do is you can take a list of the sold properties, right, without violating their names, and you call the 7 agents that sold 10 homes. You say, hey, you know, Mickey, do you mind if I asked, you know, when your client on you know, Main Street sold, where did they move to? I'm just trying to better understand where people move to when they leave. I don't want to know their name. I don't want to know the specific address, but did they stay in town or they move out of state? And if you talk to 7 agents, I bet you 5 of them would give you that information.
Okay, you could do that.
Right. And then you can send out a mailing saying, hey, you know, I did some research, and where do people move when they sell their home in Closter? You know, call me for a free report, or maybe you can put down, you know, here's the top 3 for the complete list. Reach out to me.
Okay. Again, my biggest challenge has been that they just don't know where to go. But
some people sold, right? And they moved somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And don't you think other people would be curious as to where their neighbors moved to?
Yep, they would be.
So, and that could be on a, even a door hanger. Hey, curious where where closer homeowners are moving when they sell. Here's 1, 2, and 3. Call me for the complete list, or call me for a complimentary consultation on, where the right place for you to move might be.
Hey Rob, this is Janet.
Hey Janet, how are you?
Good morning. Just a suggestion, because most of New Jersey we're still seeing is going into, the South, Florida, North Carolina, etc. And we have so many offices in Florida right now. Could we pull that data from, the agents that are working in these areas? Like what are the top adult community areas that, we're seeing are opportunities, are affordable, and give us some of that data so that we can promote it here in the North, or just have it as consultants, have that subject matter at hand. We know that we are having challenges with people that were interested in Florida in the past are maybe not so interested because they're hearing that we have multiple offers. I've heard that on the call being confirmed. There are still many people that want to go into condos. We know that there's the risk around the assessments. So, I mean, we know, and people always know the negative news. So if there's the opportunity to tell us, I know that David and, his team have been talking about great opportunities on the West and Sarasota. What numbers, what areas can you give us that we can be proactive and say, hey, so maybe South Florida is not an option for you at this time, but here's a few other areas in Florida that are still affordable and might be an opportunity for you to consider. And we have partners that we can partner you with in those areas.
I think that would be great.
I think we can pull that information from the MLS. I don't know if it'll give us specific communities, but it will give us areas where people are moving from New York and New Jersey, where they're going. Is that what you're looking for, or you want specific communities?
I want agents that are on the ground now in Florida. So I've already reached out to David. Like I have, an investor here who's talking about going west, and they're not exactly ready to make a move, but we had this conversation, and the conversation came about. They had been looking on the East Coast, they were looking in South Florida, but the prices are just going beyond their appetite right now, and now they're looking for other areas in Florida. And because we have these weekly calls, I remember David and his team talking about some of the opportunities on the West Coast. And I mentioned this to them, and she said, yeah, actually, that's where we're starting to focus on right now. There seem to be some opportunities there. So again, because we have agents on the ground, and, like, why reinvent the wheel if they already know what their markets, where their markets are affordable, where the opportunities are, can we just get that from these agents? And, we can do as we normally do. We help you kind of, as we're talking to people in the North looking to relocate, we can be more proactive as opposed to being general like we've been in the past, like, hey, Florida, I can speak to that a little more specifically and more educated, and also link them up to someone on the team versus just going in the Rolodex and kind of finding an agent.
No, that's an excellent idea.
Now.
I love it. And I think also if we can even get an idea of what towns or areas that, let's say, you can get a price range for a 3-family home with 2 bathrooms, you can get a home from $500 to $600, or in this town, average home is here. So that because you always know what kind of price range they're looking at, you can say to them, hey, you can move to, and I'm just going to use hypothetical, Sarasota, and you can get a home for $500,000 to $600,000. Agents in that town that we can recommend you to that will help you with your search. And they get a referral, we get a client, and it could be a happy scenario all the way around.
Right.
So-
I know areas in St. Augustine that have great adult communities. I have some friends that just moved there. You know, what are their price points? Are they more affordable? Because we know Florida, especially the South, with the storms and everything, this is what's perpetuating these assessments and them going so far. But that's just one area of Florida. So where are the other opportunities that, you know, our Florida team is there. So educate the North and let us help you and help our clients, because then we can go to our clients with, you know, again, a more strategic, consultative approach, which I think, you know, they buy rather than giving a call and saying, hey, like, where do you want to go? And yeah, everybody's going to Florida, and can I, you know, I can help you there with a connection. If we can give them a little bit more data, I think that always helps to build credibility and to alleviate some of the uncertainty.
So Colleen, what do you think, like if I said, if we were to try to identify a relocated family or person who moved from the Northeast to Florida a year ago, and we were to put on a Zoom meeting or some sort of a forum, say, hey, if you're thinking about moving to Broward County, you know, here's all the facts. You know, we'll have agents that are on, and we also feature a homeowner said, hey, I used to live in Central Jersey. I moved here. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. You know, as long as they're not completely, you know, one-sided negative, right? How could that really hurt?
Well, no, I think we could do that. I also think if we set up a peer-to-peer with agents that operate in those other areas. I know we have Stan Wilson who does Osceola County. Of course, we have, you know, David over on the West Coast. We have several agents that operate in different areas that we could have them talk about the areas that they have and what the price points are there.
I think that would be excellent. I mean, we just heard, I don't remember the gentleman's name, I think it was Richard, saying, you know, he's seeing that his sellers are moving to North Florida. So where are they moving north, and where do we have a presence there? You know, because again, just talking to David, he seems to have some of that Northwest and Northeast footprint. And if he can speak to it and give us some, you know, some areas that we can help our clients with, I think that would be golden for all of us.
Rob, Donna Sika here. I just put my contact information over there about Solavita or anybody that was on the East Coast. I lived over there for 38 years. So my contact's in the chat. So if anybody wants to give me a call after this, I'm more than happy to share information. Be glad to.
What part of Florida did you say? Is that east?
I'm on the well, I was on the East Coast in Melbourne, Brevard County for 38 years, and have just relocated to Solavita. And just, I mean, I've known about the community since '09. My aunt lives here, but
Where's Solvita? I'm sorry.
Solavita is in Kissimmee, Poinciana in Central Florida, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes from Disney. And our property values, I just put in there. I mean, we've had 125 sales in the community, you know, since the beginning of the year, and 105 of those have been under 500. We're not in the $1 million. We're not. It's not that kind of environment here. It is a definite lifestyle, and I guess if you're looking for people to come, you have to ask them what are they looking for, and you know, it's the only reason people leave here is because they're either going back for family for medical reasons, or they're going to assisted living, or they pass away. And so, you know, my plan is to go back and look at the original owners. The development came about in 2000. So I'm going to start targeting the original owners, because they're going to be moving on for one of those three reasons. And that's all there is. But it's very affordable here, and new construction is going crazy. You go outside the development here, and in a 3/4 mile stretch, there are 7 new housing developments, not including the builder of this development, who has a 4,500 family home going across the street. And we're kind of exploding here, but it's pretty affordable. It's and I'm familiar with Brevard County and the Vero Beach area. I sold down there as well. So
sounds great. We'll definitely we'll contact you. And I know you said your name earlier, and I'm sorry.
Yes,
Didn't
That's
catch
okay.
it.
It's Donna Sika,
Donna.
S-I-C-A.
Hi, Donna. Mickey,
Hi.
listen, I'll be contacting you later on.
Yeah, feel free to give me a call anytime after 3. I do have appointments after this, but if you want to give me a call, I'm very, you know, the multiple, I will say here and in the Brevard County area, the multiple offers I would say would pretty much slow down. Last year, you know, I wouldn't do open houses. I would have specific appointments, you know, like 20 and 38. I would do the 2 weekends and get, you know, 12 and 20 offers. I mean, it was crazy, but it's just come to a screeching halt in these particular areas for that type of, you know, activity, but certainly very affordable in both places.
Hi, it's Heather from the Rockaway office. Is anyone in the Florida offices, do they deal with anything in the villages?
I guess, Donna, you were closer to the villages in Melbourne, right?
I do actually, I do have a contact, a person I've known for over 20 years. She's recently, not recently got her license, but anyway, she just moved to the villages and I've been there. I have not sold in the villages, but I do have a contact there. If anybody is interested in that, her name is Jana Shouts, and I'm happy to.
I'm very close to the villages. I know.
If you're, yeah, there you go.
Are you? Okay, just, I've visited there. That's a great community.
What is the villages? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that, with Florida.
So it's another 55 up community, but it spans like 3 different counties. But it's just, it's like its own little bubble with, you have your doctors and dentists and vets, and there's, I mean, a million and one just activities and
Karen, is that the largest active adult in the nation, right?
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
By
very,
a long
Go
shot.
karts everywhere.
Yes,
Go-karts.
yeah, so it's, yeah, everything is through golf carts, but we don't have to leave.
You know, there's like wherever they build a Home Depot, you know, they put in a Lowe's, right? So there's a lot of adjacent communities around the villages as well that, you know, that also contribute to the inventory.
So do they normally have inventory, or are there challenges with inventory at the
oh
village?
no, there's always, I would say there's always inventory there,
They
but again,
keep
it's a
building
lifestyle.
acres upon acres upon acres. Every time we go down, there's a whole new development there.
Great.
Yeah,
So
really
I
good.
think those are the areas that we need to know about, because again, when people are selling in most of our areas, they're downsizing. Most of them are 55 and over, and you know, to be able to offer those opportunities again, because I mean, like South Florida, in my opinion, has just exploded, but that's where most people know, at least in the New Jersey area. So introducing them to these areas, if they don't know about it, I think can really put us in a great position to add value.
Right.
So if we can get these areas together.
Absolutely agree.
Well,
I never
especially
even heard of a lot of those areas.
Yeah, and the people that don't want, you know, they don't want the price point of, you know, the West Coast or the East Coast of Florida, and not dealing with the hurricanes and tornadoes and everything down there. It puts, you know, villages are just more central.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hearing more and more about Ocala. It just seems like everyone's looking for areas more north because of the storms, because of everything that's, you know, just the lifestyle in South Florida is also just too busy for people now. I have friends in South Florida that have just moved to Ocala and the West is for the same reason. It's just, they're just saying it's overcrowded, and they want to maintain the lifestyle they used to have before South Florida exploded.
Right. Yeah, and Ocala and the villages, you're only like 45 minutes from Orlando, so it's not like you're so far out, but it's just a different place, you know, it's just a different central place, but it's beautiful.
All right, well, I have a lot. I hope we at least picked up 1 or 2 things from this conversation, and I think it's given me some ideas on how we could maybe develop ways for people to better understand and get comfortable with what their next phase is, and then that will free up some listing inventory for us to get here and unseize the market. I want to thank everybody for your contributions. I have a little bit of homework to do. I think the talking to local builders and finding out people who decided not to build is another way to identify prospects for us. So hopefully we got at least one or two ideas from here. And this is not the end of our journey here. This is just the beginning. Okay.
Thanks, Rob. It was excellent.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you.